another episode of Blackbirding Reflections, and I'm continuing with my Doctrine of Discovery episodes. Today is episode 6, and I'll be talking about the genocide of Fijian people. Genocide of Fijian people is commonly stated that no genocide was committed in Fiji leading up to and post-secession in 1874. This is absolutely not true. Both germ and military genocides were committed against the Fijians, in which thousands of Fijians were killed and many who had survived were enslaved by the colonizers. Military genocide. The military genocide was committed against the Dolo people who mainly lived in the hilly interior of the Fiji's main island, Viti Levu. The American Civil War between 1861 and 1865 saw a rise in cotton prices, and a flood of hundreds of settlers came to Fiji in 1860s from Australia and the United States in order to obtain land and grow cotton. Fiji lacked a functioning government, and these planters were often able to get the land in violent or fraudulent ways, such as exchanging weapons or alcohol with Fijians who might or might not have been the true owners of the land. The white planters started to push into the hill interior of Viti Levu, and this put them into direct confrontation with the Dolo people. These people were still living a mostly traditional lifestyle, and they were not Christianized. And they were not under the rule of the Kambau or the Confederacy. However, the initial confrontation between the colonialists with help from the Kambau did not result in many deaths of the Dolo people. However, in the subsequent military operations, the people of Dolo were not spared. With the rapid increase in white settlers into the country, the desire for the land acquisition also intensified. Once again, conflict with the Dolo people in the interior of Viti Levu ensued. In 1871, a group of around 400 armed vigilantes, including veterans of the US Civil War, had a battle with the Dolo people. The village was destroyed, and the Dolo people received numerous casualties. The Dolo people responded by making frequent raids on the settlements of the whites and the Christian Fijians throughout the district of Ba. In the east of the island, on the upper reaches of the River, villages were burnt, and many Dolo people were shot by vigilante settlers squads called the River Rifles. In 1873, when the Burns family were killed by a Dolo person, the Kambau government deployed 50 King's troopers to the region, and the further deployment of another 50 troops under Captain Hardy was sent to emphasize the Burmese authority. This force went into the interior and massacred about 170 Dolo people at Nakoro Waiwai. From March to October 1873, a force of about 200 King's troops under the general administration of R.S. Swanston, with around 1,000 coastal Fijian and white volunteer auxiliaries, led a campaign throughout the highlands of the Viti Levu to annihilate the Dolo people. Major Fitzgerald and Major Hasey Thurston, who was the brother of John Bates Thurston, led a two-pronged attack throughout the region. The combined force of the different clans of the Dolo people made a stand at the village of Maduli. The Dolo people were defeated, with dynamite and fire being used to flush them out from their defensive positions among the mountain caves. Many Dolo people were killed, and one of the main leaders of the hills, Ratu Dandra, was forced to surrender with around 2,000 men, women, and children taken as prisoners and sent to the coast. Thurston crushed this resistance in the 2 months following the battle. At the Nadoli villages were burnt, Dolo people were killed, and a further large number of prisoners were taken. The operations were now over. The above is the example of genocide committed in Fiji through military and other killings of the Fijians by or on behalf of the white Australians and American settlers. I feel that further research will reveal more such killings in other parts of Fiji leading up to and beyond Fiji's cession to the Britain in 1874. Now I'm going to talk about the germ genocide. In 1875, Hercules Robinson, the governor of New South Wales at the time, took Dakambao and his 2 sons to Sydney to celebrate an accession of Fiji. Because of a measles outbreak in Sydney, the 3 Fijians were infected with the disease. On returning to Fiji, for some unknown reason, the colonial administration did not quarantine the ship that the Kambao family were traveling. This deliberate or otherwise neglect caused from 1875 to 76 an epidemic of measles in Fiji in the year following the return, which killed over 40,000 Fijians. This was about 1/3 of the Fijian population. Some Fijian survivors believe that this failure of quarantine was a deliberate action to introduce the disease into the country. According to the United Nations conventions, genocide is a crime that can take place both in time of war as well as in time of peace. The definition contained in Article 2 of the convention describes genocide as a crime committed with the intent to destroy a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group in whole or in part. Clearly, killing of several thousand Fijians through deliberate military actions and wiping out 1/3 of the native Fijians through deliberate or otherwise measles infection is genocide. Considering the long and brutal history of the European genocides of people of color throughout the post-1492 colonialist tragedies, I believe that genocide of the Fijians were committed by or on behalf of the white Australians and the American settlers in Fiji. Now I come to the enslavement of the Fijians. We have already learned what had happened to the Dolo people of Fiji. Apart from their genocide, the survivors were enslaved. In addition to the blackbirding labor from the other Pacific islands, thousands of people indigenous to the Fijian archipelago were sold into slavery on the plantations as the white settler back to the Kambao government and later the British colonial government subjected areas in Fiji and the East population. The resultant prisoners of war were regularly sold at auction to the planters. This not only provided a source of revenue for the government, but also dispersed the rebels to different, often isolated islands where the plantations were located. The land that was occupied by these people before they became slaves were also sold off to the additional revenue. As an example of this is the Loboni people of Ola Island, who, after being defeated in a war with the the Dakota government in 1871 were rounded up and sold off to the settlers at £6 per head. 2,000 Lavoni men, women, and children were sold, and the period of slavery lasted 5 years. So likewise, after the Dolo Wars in 1873, thousands of people from the hill tribes of Vitilobu were sent to Labuka and sold into slavery. Warnings from the Royal Navy stationed in the area that buying these people were illegal were largely given without enforcement, and the British consul in Fiji, Edward Bernard March, regularly turned a blind eye to this type of labor trade. Further research would reveal more instances of enslavement of the Fijians to work for the white settlers in Fiji. Now, briefly to blackbirding of the Pacific Islanders in Fiji. Blackbirding was the practice of recruiting, transporting, and exploiting men from the Pacific Islands, including New Hebrides and Solomon Islands, by the white Australian colonizers in Fiji. It is estimated that from 40 to 60,000 island men were transported to Fiji before the start of transportation of Indian men, women, and children, which began in Fiji in 1879. Some of these islanders were not returned to their homes after the end of the slavery in Fiji. Others were repatriated, and it is reported that others were dumped in the seas to die in order to save repatriation costs. I will deal with these heinous acts by the colonizers of Fiji in my later works. And I come to this end of this episode 6. In the next episode, I'll be talking about the endangered Indians being brought to Fiji by the colonizers as cheap labor. I'd like to stress that in my original article, which appears in the academia.edu page, I have given adequate references and sources from where I got this information. And if you like to get further understanding of how the Australians and Americans colonized Fiji and colonized people of Fiji, took the land as stated by the long-standing Doctrine of Discovery, please go to my academia.edu website and read the article and get the references. And next week, as I said, I'll be talking about the transportation of Indian men, women, and children to Fiji and why they were done so. And thanks for watching. If you appreciate my work, if you like what you see in here, please share. And for many more videos to follow on similar and other world activities on history and what is going on the world today that is affecting our lives, like COVID and so on, please subscribe. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.